Hello and welcome to another episode of the O3C podcast coming to you from O3C Games. My name is Jonathan Dunn and I am joined, as always, by Chris Dow.
Trek forever.
And ever. And ever. And
ever after.
We're going around the world in 80 Shreks. 80 games. Quick note at the top of the show here, if you want to enter our amazing prize draw, then message us on our socials at O3C Games with the word parsnips. Parsnips. Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, or join our Discord via our website, o3c.games. Parsnips.
Easy.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Jonathan.
We're back. We're in Finland, but only briefly, because I'm very excited to be starting our Playdate Season 2 weekly special starting next bloody week.
Yes. Had to think ahead there to just get the date in my mind, but you are right. The whole year is starting to pass me by. We got the Playdate soon, we got the Switch 2 soon. It's all... Yeah. It's coming. It's a coming.
We've got a final destination to visit before we take a brief detour. That is Finland.
Yes.
Finland. We're going to be talking about the mobile gaming capital of the world.
Yes.
And some of its gaming output. But first, we need to catch each other up on what we've been playing in the last month. And I'm going to start. Because...
All right.
Unlike what I said in our Switch 2 special about how I consume games, that I'll buy a full price game on launch as a physical edition to play and then trade in, I only buy digital games if they're discounted. Side note, I then went on in the Norway episode to talk about how I flouted those rules twice in the case of Diablo 4 before proceeding to not play it for 2 years.
Yes.
This month I flouted it again because I bought Elder Scrolls Oblivion remastered the day it was shadow dropped for a full price of £50. For now, it's only available digitally. And then, did I proceed to at least play it to completion? Find out coming up now. Like many people, I was immediately enticed by the extraordinary graphical remaster / full graphical rebuild in Unreal 5, and the game does look absolutely gorgeous. As with anything rendered in Unreal 5, it does lack a certain style because of its hyperreal genericism, but this world is meant to be realistic, and the style comes in other ways. You know, the different regions and cities and societies and communities and factions and flora and fauna and Florida have been designed. It all looks stunning, from the rainy forests to the spooky caves and forts, the surreal madness of the Shivering Isles, the radiant marble pillars of the Imperial City, everything in between. Doesn't run great, I'll say that much, especially in the open world. There's a lot of frame rate stutters, artifacing, pop-in. And I mean, at the heart of it, this game is a 20-year-old game that has only had a smattering of quality of life features added in. And after a few hours of playing, I decided that I'd rather just play Skyrim, which I hadn't properly played since it came out, which was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I downloaded the PS5 version of Skyrim via PS Plus and started a new game just to sort of remind myself of what upgrades Skyrim had made over Oblivion. And immediately the game is quicker. I say immediately. After you have to sit through an on-rails opening for about 400 hours, The game is then quicker, it's cleaner, it's more snappy with how you do everything. Weapons in both hands is great. Inventory is really easy to manage. Perks in the leveling up is a quicker way to feel progress than like the longer form perks you unlock in Oblivion. I mean, the biggest upgrade in Skyrim over Oblivion is in exploring, though. The dungeons that you'll stumble across in the game, like Oblivion, come in different forms, like caves or forts or dwarven things or elven ruins and, stuff like that. In Oblivion, they are a linear experience that you will then need to backtrack through when you've hit the end of it, which is monumentally annoying, especially when Oblivion in general is split up into much smaller areas with loading doors much more frequent than in Skyrim, because obviously it's an older game. And also when you press your map button in Oblivion, it defaults to the world map view when you're in a dungeon.
That's a silly oversight.
It's even worse than that is you then have to zoom in on the world map and then press a button again to get into the dungeon map. Every time.
Yeah.
It's so annoying because, obviously, like the dungeons are quite, windy and generic. And even if you don't have general navigational amnesia like I apparently do, like they're easy to get lost in. It's not fun, and it makes me just not want to bother exploring places I stumble across. Whereas in Skyrim, the dungeons, well, usually have a little secret tunnel or a lever to pull at the end of the dungeon to loop back to the entrance. And it's also much easier to know when you're finished with a dungeon, or if there are more secrets to poke around and find. Usually there's a tangible end boss or like a big treasure chest to find, and then it's checked off as cleared on your world map, which
we like that.
Oblivion doesn't do that.
We like a tick.
It's a quality of life thing I would have loved to see in Oblivion Remastered, and because they can't obviously redesign all the dungeons to loop around to the beginning, they could at least maybe let you fast travel out of dungeons, which they don't let you do. And like it's very easy to become over encumbered right at the very end of a dungeon from picking up too much loot or expensive armor to sell. It then just becomes incredibly tedious in Oblivion. It's very quickly I became absolutely sure I wasn't going to return to Oblivion if those sort of features weren't patched in. And even though like Skyrim obviously doesn't look as pretty as Oblivion Remastered, even on the PS5 version, what I didn't realise is that the latest versions of the console Skyrim games allows you to add mods.
Yes, they do, don't they?
They are plentiful and incredible, and it wasn't long before I'd added several mods to make the game look really quite stunning on PS5 with denser, more intricate villages and towns, better designed foliage and animals, and amazing sky and weather systems, and some quality of life features like an even more like intricate and cool perk system. I found a mod that just gives you infinite stamina outside of combat. So something like Elden Ring, where you're going to be running around for a lot, and it's like, why punish somebody for just wanting to get around a bit quicker? It's like stamina comes into play when you go into combat. So that's made it good. I also added a bigger jump in too for myself. I doubled the size of my jump. I did find a mod to do a 50 times jump, but I didn't do that.
Oh, you should.
I might do. I might do.
Moon jump.
It's fun, maybe. And then I just proceeded to put 30 hours into a run. I explored a huge amount of the map. I had a brilliant time. And didn't really scratch the surface because it is a huge game, especially with obviously all the DLC that there is for Skyrim. It's worth saying at this point that neither Skyrim or Oblivion actually have great gameplay because even at release, Skyrim felt dated, much in the way that Starfield has done, because it hasn't reinvented a 20-plus-year-old formula once again. But the joy in Skyrim, as with Oblivion, is it's just a huge, fully realised world to explore. It's almost like best thought of as a walking simulator with a bit of action, because exploring everything these worlds have to offer is just wonderful. The different guilds and factions you can join and be a part of, the incredible versatility in styles of play and narrative threads you can explore, just the sheer epicness of the main stories of these worlds. It's just wonderful to get lost in, even if it's not as engaging, to play as something like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or The Witcher 3 or Breath of the Wild. What was I going to say? When I was doing some research into like the different mods and stuff that was going to be, a good fit for the PS5, I found somebody who I think called himself like the Tamriel tourist, I think. And
nice alliteration.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And basically sought to find ways of playing the game to experience it like a walking simulator as a tourist. And there were mods then to turn off certain things, but then also like self-imposed rules, like you have to sleep in a bed every night and things like that. And it was just like, you can play this game like that and you will have a great time because it is just really, really beautiful. there was one thing in Skyrim that rubbed me up the wrong way, and it was such a small thing. And I'm really surprised I couldn't find a mod to override it. There might be one, but I could not find it. And that is you can't jump while you're running.
You have to do a standing jump.
Yeah, you have to stop running to jump. And it is such a silly thing to not be able to do because it makes traversal feel so stilted.
Yeah.
Like, especially because, like, you know, the game rightly adjusts your speed when you're running uphill, but it does it quite dramatically, which is it's fine. But Skyrim is an extremely mountainous region of this world, and it started to get very slow, dull, and annoying to get around. It's why I put the double, well, not a double jump, but, you know, a double height jump in there.
50 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably needed, to be honest.
Just clear the mountain in one go.
Yeah, I was sure that having reminded myself of all the improvements of, you know, this core system that Skyrim had made, that I would probably never return to Oblivion remastered at this point. But to confirm that feeling, I thought I'm going to boot up Oblivion one last time before uninstalling it and mourning my £50. And I was really surprised that there was actually a lot that I was really enjoying. You can jump while running for a start, so that's something. You don't have the the infinite options of combining weapons, magic, perks, and abilities. So you basically just pick the sword with the biggest number and crack on.
Yeah.
There's no crafting in Oblivion, so I'm much less inclined to madly gather materials and ingredients in the same way because I've never got into potion brewing in these games. And even though it was annoying that the dungeons in the game weren't structured in the same way as Skyrim, instead of being annoyed about it, I just didn't worry about it. I checked them off. I'd make sure that I got to the location so I could use them as fast travel points on my map if I needed to. But otherwise, you know, I'd only really bother exploring them if they were part of a quest or a side quest. And it means that if the devs do patch in a completed checkmark system for them, I can go back and mop them up at some point if I wanted. And I just started really enjoying the main story, which is brilliant. It's got great characters. The central sort of, one of the big central characters is Martin Septim, the surprise heir to the throne, voiced by
Patrick Stewart.
Sean Bean.
Oh, is Patrick Stewart in there somewhere as well?
He voices is it Tiber Septim, the emperor who's basically killed at the beginning of the game, and then Martin Septim is his heir.
Because I've never played more than the first hour. So.
Yeah, he gets stabbed in the back in a sewer.
I remember that.
Old Pat Stew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the character of Martin Septim. He's just got this ridiculously fantastic arc. And I mean, you know, going through the Oblivion gates in the game into this hellish landscape, it's always very cool. Even if they do get a bit samey after a while, like the frequent loading screens, even though obviously on PS5 they're there for a second, but that it does stop your momentum a little bit. But they became less of an issue for me because I stopped exploring the dungeons and getting lost and going back and forth and back and forth. So, you know, it stopped bothering me that much, as did the graphical hitches in the performance, because I just didn't care that much. You know, I mean, these games have always been noted for their slight aesthetic jankiness, so it felt on brand, you know, at least. And then I just played the main story to completion, which absolutely delivers on its epic premise with a final showdown set piece that was, I mean, breathtaking 20 years ago and now looks even cooler and more impressive. And I love that you can keep playing in the world after the main story ends, because it changes like the dynamic of this whole world. And it's great to see that reflected in how people behave and talk and how, you know, lots of other things change around the world accordingly. And after the main story, nicely, Oblivion Remastered also includes the two main pieces of DLC from Oblivion, which is Knights of the Nine and the Shivering Isles. I did the whole of the Knights of the Nine questline, which sees you solving puzzles and questing across the whole land in search of a legendary set of armour and weapons, and it's really, really fun. It's like a proper treasure hunt. It's brilliantly realised. The thing that I was most excited about playing in this entire remaster, possibly the reason why I bought it at all, was the Shivering Isles DLC, which is set on a whole new area of the map, and it's this set of islands, the domain of Sheer Gorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness.
Whoa.
This place is mental. Literally, it's split into two sides. You've got this colourful, like Wonderland-esque mania, and then the bleak, desolate, desaturated dementia. Just exploring mania and dementia, just on a Sunday morning. And at the heart of it all is this madcap Daedric prince who sends you on an epic quest. And like the design of this land is amazing. Obviously, it looks stunning in this remaster. All the different places you discover have incredible character to them. All the different places you discover have incredible character to them and incredible characters in them. And also, like, the way they've designed the dungeons in this expansion is so much better. Like, there are, like, looping designs and more variety and more interactivity. And it sort of feels like a 0.5 DLC in terms of, like, what it was setting up for how Skyrim will be. And, you know, I don't really remember that when I first played Oblivion, you know, however many years ago. But it's really, really cool to actually see that path, that development path, you know, sort of laid out in this in the DLC. So yeah, like the Shivering Isles are just a real joy to explore and experience all of the literal madness that it has in store. I really, really do hope that they patch in some more improvements to Oblivion Remastered, not just in terms of its, you know, graphical stability, but mostly just with a few more quality of life tweaks to make exploring the game just, you know, less of a chore, much more enticing. And I'm actually glad that I have it digitally on my console because
it's ready to go.
Exactly, it feels like
the
sort of game
ready to go.
Yeah, and I can just dip in and out, you know, to check off a few quests now and again when I fancy having that, you know, little dose of, you know, escapism. It's definitely not going to scratch the serious gameplay itches that I get, but I have many other games for that. And this is, you know, still an old game at heart. But I also think that, you know, free of nostalgia, this game still has got a huge amount to offer as an experience. It is lovely, and honestly, the music does a lot of heavy lifting.
Oh, close. No, I think I'm reaching a point in my gaming life where I tend to look for one of two types of game. I either play for hobby. I either choose something that's breezy, easy to pick up and play, very low investment, like, say, Tetris, that I get stuck into multiple times a year, can easily dip in and out at your leisure. Or I might go for kind of like an experience being like something that's like not too long, but it's kind of like a bit weird, a bit different. Maybe it's kind of notable for some reason. It's going to stand out as just being something to play that I hadn't played, can add to, you know, my brain history noggin type thing. I want to talk about a game called Harold's Walk, because Harold's Walk is an experience. It was, this is testing everyone's knowledge here, a surreal experimental platform game that was on the 3DS that I played and loved a long time ago, and I mentioned in relative passing on the podcast, because we used to talk about games lickety-split, and now we don't. But for reasons unknown, Harold's Walk has inexplicably been ported, remade, remastered, expanded, whatever terms you want to use, for Steam sometime in the last 12 months by the original developer. I beat the original game 100% on the 3DS, and it took maybe an hour back when I did that a few years back. And as a measure of how much the game has grown, I didn't unlock the final ending in the PC port until close to 5 hours play, I think. And there's a time trial mode now. There's a challenge mode, which I've beaten, further extending the length of this previously diminutive handheld thingy. But I liked it on the 3DS, and I really, really liked it on Steam. So I would recommend having a look if you like weirdo games. On paper, it's essentially just a collectathon platform game. You're dropped into a stage, you head off in search of donuts and crowns, which are the two in-game collectibles. And stages often look, if we're being charitable, a bit like a first draft of someone making a game, or partly unfinished, or in some cases very undercooked. You know, you can very much see the low polygon aesthetic of the 3DS screaming through the presentation here. But the more time you spend in each of these weird spaces, the more it starts to feel, to me at least, that the oddness of the whole world is kind of by design, like by at least part intention. And it's undercooked, but not because it's in error, more because it's meant to be enjoyed al dente. You know, it's deliberate. There is definitely a deliberateness to it. I've played enough games now to get a feel for when a game is unpolished because a developer is a relative newcomer and maybe doesn't quite know what they're doing. If you think back to the game Minty played, God knows how long ago, called Woodle Tree Adventures, that was a 3D platform game, but if you played it, it just felt bad because it was a developer just finding their feet, I guess. But sometimes a game feels like that because it's making aesthetic choices to try and say something or do something or be something. Harold's Walk, to play it now on the PC, it feels like maybe it's a commentary on the collect 'em up genre itself, seeing like how far you can sort of tease out the core design principles of jumping and collecting before a game stops being recognisably a 3D platformer as we've understood it, basically post Mario 64. Or it could be, because it's again has multiple endings and a lot of hidden meta progression, a game that wants to tell a wider story too. For the first hour, and indeed basically all of my 3DS playthrough, Harold was just a platforming avatar stand-in. He's a little horrible squat man wearing a crown. He's horrible to look at, but he's just there. And playing it, I was like, it's a platform game. It doesn't matter who I'm controlling. It doesn't matter what I'm controlling. They're just essentially like a chess piece, like moving about a 3D board. But in the same way, it doesn't matter if you're the car or the dog when playing Monopoly. Harold could have been anything. He was a little troll man, but he could have been an untextured cube. It wouldn't have made any difference. But as you play it, with this kind of low poly world and the environmental storytelling and these other little bits that you kind of unlock, Harold's stumpy ugliness and the lack of care the character seems to have had afforded it starts to have intentionality too. So it's like the more time you put in, the more you're rewarded for just meeting it on its own terms, I think. Like the worlds we run and jump through within games are obviously a construct. We understand games are not real for the most part, but Harold's Walk starts to explore how far we can operate like a construct within a construct, a sort of like Inception gaming, because the stuff happening in game does kind of have another reality behind it, I guess. Starts to loosely become a game about games in a strange way, even if it's never that explicit in its direct kind of storytelling and messaging. But I really like it. I'm sure some will listen to this and then look at a screenshot of Harold's Walk, which I think you are doing right now, and argue that I could be reading far too much into this game. But to those people, I would make the assertion that it's me who has now played this to completion across 2 platforms, and given its relatively low install base, I'm dubious that many others can say the same. You can't even get it on the 3DS anymore unless you go via alternative means. And on Steam, I can't imagine it's sold like gangbusters. This is a very niche product.
27 reviews.
I think I'm one of them, or if I haven't been, I will be the 28th latest. The genre trappings mean that you can play this as a straight-up stage-based platformer if you want. But below the genre tags and sort of codified platforming conventions, stuff like that, it does do more. And, I'm not going to embarrass myself and suggest it's better than Mario Odyssey or Astro Bot or anything like that, because I'm not unwell, but I would be prepared to at least argue that it's probably more interesting. I think it is doing more interesting things, even if it's got a lot less polish than kind of a big first party thing for Nintendo or Sony or whatever. So yeah, Harold's Walk, if you're a weirdo like me, if you like kind of odd sort of weirdo games, I would definitely say put it on your wish list, grab it on sale for a few quid, and potentially have a really cool time.
Have you seen a game called Lunistis?
That's the one that kind of has like a PS1 Saturn sort of aesthetic. I have seen it, but I've not played it.
Yeah, I mean, just as a quick glance, it sort of reminded me of that because it's that sort of deliberately low poly experience. It's a 3D platformer / collectathon. It's really, I mean, it's a really, really good game. I played it after I played like Unbox.
Yes.
Which you set me as a task to play 6 years ago or so.
Feels like it.
I don't know if Lunistis has got any deeper themes. I don't know if you'll play it and come back and say it's really good commentary on apartheid. Or
you never know.
You never know. It might
be.
Know. It
might be.
But it was a really good game. I'd recommend. Yeah, I recommend playing it. So yeah. Yeah, God, Harold's Walk is ugly, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's disgusting.
I love it. It's like, intentionally like clip art.
Yeah. I mean, it extends to the music as well. The soundtrack is somewhere between grating and incredible. Like it's really strange that I was humming the weird tunes after I'd stopped playing. But at the same time, I was thinking, but did I enjoy it? Did I like that music? So I don't know. It's one to look at.
It's going on my wish list.
Well, I think you might get a kick out of it in a weird way.
I've played something else.
What's that?
I think you've been playing it too.
A bit.
That was a very dirty laugh. That was the sound of a man with a grubby secret. That grubby secret is a notebook full of crazy scribbles and sketchings and things, because both of us have been entirely consumed by Blueprints, which is a new puzzle game. It's been likened to The Witness in terms of its quality. No, likened to The Witness in terms of just how much there is to discover, and and other similar games like Outer Wilds, Animal Well, games that really reward you for exploring. I've got a lot further in the game than you.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about Blueprints, and then I'll make sure I don't ruin anything for you.
If you spoil anything, I'm leaving the call.
Fine.
So, as you have just alluded to, we've been playing Blueprints, and tail back 5 minutes when I said, I love to play short experience games. Well, that was a lie, wasn't it? Because I've played Blueprints for, I think, 7-8 days at this stage since I installed it, and I've currently logged 31 hours of play. This is, I don't know how to sum up this game. So I'm going to tell a little story first.
There we go.
And it might make sense for some people that are playing. It might sound like I've lost my mind. Whenever I visit my parents' house, in real life, this is not in any sort of game, whether I'm hungry or not, I just find myself checking the fridge. And sometimes I'll drive down over a weekend. Yeah, exactly. Whenever I visit my parents' house, that's in real life, not in any sort of virtual space. Whether I'm hungry or not, I will find myself just checking the fridge. Sometimes I might drive down over a weekend, just have a bath. As me and George's place here, we've only got a shower, and I really like running a hot tub and then having a snooze in the 3/4 size bath, my leg hanging over the side. I sometimes wander into the spare room. I'll strum a few chords on the acoustic guitar that I learnt to play on when I was wee, that still sits there. At some point in a visit, I'll probably pop out to the garage and see if there's any cans of fizzy drink in the little fridge that Mum keeps out there. But amidst all of this familiarity, I'll also open a kitchen cupboard inquisitively, expecting glasses, and find bowls, because it's been changed. Or I'll pull open a drawer to grab some like herbs or spices if I'm making Mum a stir fry for lunch or whatever. And instead of finding any sort of flavourings, I'll just find a load of cooking implements and cutlery instead. Sat in the garden, I'll glance over sometimes and realise a tree isn't there anymore, or a bush has been moved, or something's been pruned or changed. And the more time that passes between me having lived at home with my family and then forging my own life in my own place and everything else, the more the experience of the house and its rooms and rhythms becomes something that's historic and habitual, but also slightly alien, because I know all these spaces, but sometimes I don't know them as well as I thought I did. Blueprints, the game, is essentially the brainchild of basically a single person. We've said recently how often brilliant games come from the minds of basically single people. This is one of those. Apparently it was inspired by Christopher Manson's picture puzzle book from 1985, which is called Maze, Solve the World's Most Challenging Game. And also the video games Gone Home and The Witness. And apparently the developer Tonda Ross played those, read that book, kind of had it in the back of his mind and thought, I'll just create the best puzzle game since The Witness myself. Why don't I do that? And spent, 7-8 years doing it, and here we are in 2025. In terms of the game's mechanics, I will be very guarded, because although you have got further than me, many people out there might not have played it at all, and I think it's vital to go in as cold as possible. It's a game about discovery. The intro explains that you've been bequeathed a mansion by a relative, but may claim the estate only on entrance to the 46th room of a 45-room house. That's your setup, basically. Each in-game day, you enter the mansion, and across a 5x9 grid, you are populating rooms from a deck of floor plans, one by one, attempting to find or attempting to create passage to the hidden room, wherever you think it could be. Along the way, you are managing a range of currencies. You've got coins, you've got gems, you've got steps, there's others as well, whilst hoping that your tactical nous and luck kind of meld together to offer you a favourable drafting draw each time you go to unlock a new space. If you run out of steps, a currency that's expended each time you enter a new room, it's run over, and the house will regenerate for the next day, so you can have another go. If your floor plan kind of ends up bookended by nothing but dead ends or locked doors, you can call it a day. You can begin a fresh kind of rogue style and have another play. If this was all Blueprints was, just a roguelike puzzle game where you're trying to build out a seemingly endless grid of rooms, I would give it 10 out of 10. I think that the mechanics alone are so tight and well considered. Every single currency helps and supports the others in a way that when you fuck up and you think, that's run over, I guarantee if you look back at your map, you're like, that's on me. That's on me. If I'd gone left instead of right there, if I placed that instead of that there, I could have got that a little bit further. It's so tightly wound that it always feels like you are in control, even at times when maybe you're not. But it does feel like that, at least. I just think it's balanced so perfectly. But it's so much more than a simple roguelike puzzle game. 30 hours in, you sort of mentioned this, that I was losing my mind. I filled close to, I think, 50 pages of an A5 notebook with clues and hints and drawings and notes and lists and theories and expectations and logs about the wider game. Like, I am writing everything down, everything I see. I'm drawing pictures. I'm drafting Georgia in to do her own little sketches sometimes as well. I think she's got a couple of minutes whilst I'm puzzling something out of my head. There are just so many nuggets in every room and space to just catch your eye or kind of whet your appetite and think, is that worth putting down? Is that going to be significant in some way? There's just, a bit of text, a bit of signage, visual nudges. Like, there's secrets everywhere in almost every single area of the game. And I know whenever I hit the end of Blueprints, I will not have hit the end. It's a game like that. It's not just, there's a nice bit of post game now. It's like, the game will not finish when the game finishes. It is wider and bigger and deeper. I think the metaphor here, it goes in all directions. It will just keep expanding. It's an ugly portmanteau, but this is a Metroidvania through and through, completely. Yeah. Like, I don't like it as a phrase, but it's the best thing to describe this specific style of puzzle game, I think, because your internal goal for each run is constantly changing as you start to build like an evolving mental checklist and flowchart that says, right, if I find this, then I'm going to cross my fingers that I get that. Or if I see that, then I'm going to head towards this. And on one run, you might find, say, a numerical string written on something or just printed on the edge of a bit of paper. On another, you'll come across an input device that accepts the same number of characters. And then you're suddenly ripping through your notebook again to think, is that going to fit here? Might be good, might not. But it's all about what's going on in your brain in between to kind of connect various dots in no numbered order. On one, you might kind of see some sort of aberration that you can't quite pass or understand. On another, you're going to pick up a tool or an item or something which recontextualizes what that anomaly could have been. It's just really good. It's really, really good. I told that silly story about my parents' house at the beginning of all this, though, because I think it captures, in part, why a gameplay loop that's very mechanical, like Blueprints, is also such a warm human game, because the spaces that you're drafting are all connected to the protagonist and to his family, both living and deceased, to their whole like evolving and kind of historical bloodline. It's connected to the local community. It's connected to kind of stuff that is happening both on and off camera, as it were. And that's what makes it also intriguing and captivating, because on the face of it all, it's a puzzle to be solved. How do I get from A to B? How do I find this thing that's going to help me get to that bit? How do I get this? How do I increase this? There's all these like small puzzles to solve. But also each run is about building a relationship with spaces as seemingly innocuous as a bedroom or a bathroom or a hallway. And then being surprised when, with this kind of developing inner matrix vision that you're building up, suddenly you see something and realise, no, I always thought that, but now I see that it is something else. And that might happen after a couple runs, it might happen after 5 runs, it might happen after 30 runs, that suddenly something happens that you're like, fucking hell, I've walked past that 30 times and the answer's been there all along. There's been something there that I should have just twigged so early and I've just flown past it. On the case of also only just twigging things, I think it was about 10 hours in before I realised that Blueprints was a homophone for Blueprints, as in the blueprints of a house. And I felt like a real dickhead. It's so good.
I didn't twig on that. You don't say it out loud, you read it, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's also beautifully paced too. Every single time I've had a few duff runs in a row, at almost the very second I started to feel kind of despondent enough to say, I think I just need a break. I'll draw a new room or find a new clue, and then I'll suddenly be kind of energized to go again. I'll get something being like, it's only half an hour till I'm supposed to go to bed. I can probably fit in one more, at least part of one. Like, it's so addictive. And suddenly the next run is not about repetition, but of new opportunity. Am I going to get the thing that I now thought about that could do the thing that could take me to the place and blah, 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 blah. What's been really interesting for me as well has been how this game has started to make me better appreciate the very roguelike genre it draws from. Because this has never been my genre. It's your genre, I would say, certainly of the two of us. And as much as I've dabbled with games like The Binding of Isaac, and I enjoy them for what they are, they've never hooked me in the way that they have you. And yet Blueprints is making me think more about the very nature of games that ilk, because they're all built around this loop of kind of familiarity of a base that is used to then encourage quick on-the-fly decision-making. You know, like in Isaac, how you might spec a run around a particular weapon or a passive upgrade, and in Blueprints you might change your approach to the map because coins are suddenly abundant, or luck has granted you a specific item or rune synergy that means a new strategy or approach or kind of journey is suddenly viable. Whilst mostly positive, I've seen discourse online where people complain that the step mechanic, coupled with the rogue setup, means the game is somehow bad or reveling in wasting your time. And although I'm firmly of the opinion that everyone is perfectly entitled to feel however they want about any and all media, I really, really implore and beg people to try a bit harder to meet media on its own terms. People make choices for reasons. You don't have to love them, but in the same way, the map system in Deadly Premonition is really awkward to use on purpose. It's for a purpose. The weapon durability in Modern Zelda makes you use other stuff. It's the whole fucking point of the game, to survive and adapt to the wild. You know, the resetting floor plans of Blueprints are one of those things. It's an artistic choice that is made in a piece of art. And whilst it's going to be down to the individual to say whether or not, being able to run willy-nilly around the whole game free of any sort of strategy or thinking would make it better or worse, I can say confidently that it would not be Blueprints as intended by its developer. And by that metric, the experience would be poorer for it. And with all games, with all films, stuff like that, I get really bored of people playing a game, or watching a film and saying, would have liked it if it did this. And it's like, then it's a different game. So what you're saying is you didn't enjoy the game as it was. That's fine. That's valid criticism. But to say, do something else, unless it's like, a small tweak to say, it'd be good if I could remap the buttons. That's a valid point to make, saying it would be good if I could control the game better. Fine. But it would be good if the game wasn't the game. It's like, then play something else. Like when I was playing Suicide Squad back in the day and whinging about that, it's like, if you don't enjoy it, play something else.
Yeah.
There are so many games. I don't know if Blueprints is going to stick the landing, as it were. I've yet to beat the game, even though I'm 30 hours in. And like I've mentioned, I know that even more than that, there's significantly more game to beat once you've beaten it. I think it's just going to keep on going. But from this kind of 30-hour snapshot, even in a year that's likely to get a boatload of Nintendo exclusives via the Switch 2 and God knows whatever else is coming out later in the year, I can't see anything else being my game of the year.
Yeah.
We're in May, but mechanically, narratively, technically, I think this is an absolute powerhouse marvel. This is perhaps the most I've enjoyed a modern contemporaneous release outside of Animal Crossing since we've been doing this show. It's really captivated me in a way that just doesn't often happen with big games. Georgia the other day said, it's really nice to see you enjoy something. And it's like, I enjoy things all the time, but I know what she means in terms of so often I'll play something that's kind of a bit awkward. And it's like, I'm enjoying this in spite of that. Yeah. Or I'll play something for 2 hours because I want to flavour it before I move on to something else. This is the first time it's like every time I sit down, she'll say or I'll say, Blueprints? And it will just immediately be back on the TV because I just want to play more of it. And that's really, really rare. So if nothing else, it's a good fucking game, isn't it? Do you want to add anything?
Yes,
that's not going to spoil me.
No, quite a bit actually. I mean, there was quite a few people that were saying you really need to play it. If you like The Witness, you're going to like this. And I don't think it is it's as comparable to The Witness. It is in some ways, but it's more missed. or Riven. Playing a game with a notebook by my side is exactly what I imagine needs to be done when playing a game like Myst or Riven. And I love it because it makes me really want to play the 2 full 3D remakes of those games, because even though I dabbled with both games on the Saturn, I probably used a guide to walk through literally any progress that I made.
Yeah.
I think my brain could handle the puzzles now, maybe. And something it's not a spoiler, but in the credits of the game, of blueprints, it does say special thanks to Cyan, and
there we go.
I
There
love
we
that
go.
as a show of like love and respect to its
Yeah.
influences. It is really, really nice. Before I come on to wax horrifically lyrical about this game, there's a couple of minor quibbles I've got, and the first being that I've had a couple of instances of the game crashing on me.
Oh, bloody
once,
PlayStation build.
Yeah. I mean, it is worth saying that you're playing this on Steam and I'm playing this on PS5, because I think that will come into play with my second quibble. But yeah, the game happened to crash at the most heartbreakingly horrible places, because it was incredibly deep into a extremely crucial run where I'd unlocked a whole bunch of things that I literally took me probably a dozen hours to make that progress back. In runs in between those bits, I made progress in other things. But I realised as well that if that game hadn't crashed, that's when I would have rolled credits. And
brutal, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely brutal. And honestly, for it wasn't even a full day, but I was convinced for several hours that I was never going to play this game again. I was just going to look up the ending of the game on YouTube and go, "Wow, fuck you." You know,
for at least 15 minutes.
For at least 15 minutes, you know, and I mean, these freezes, they've always come when I've tried to click through options or something too quickly, and it's like I catch the game out and get caught between menu spaces. And it means I'm always just a bit cautious about just clicking through things too quickly. But yeah, it's in a game like this where you cannot replicate every single detail of a run, which is the point of a roguelike and the brilliance of it. When a game crashes on you and you lose that, that's horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The other quibble I've got is a bit more of a major one, because I found that a lot of the puzzles to be deeply inaccessible for someone who is colourblind.
A colourblind man. There's no compensation for like these colour-based puzzles by having like patterns on the colours. There's not even any different visual filter options. It is just what it is, and I physically cannot see what I'm meant to be doing on quite a few puzzles, like the maths puzzles where the colours denoting to add or to multiply numbers, they look identical to me. You know, in an instance of that, I know that if I've got the sum wrong, it's because of that, and I can then work it out. But that's not the puzzle. The puzzle isn't. Oh, have you tried replacing your eyes? You know. Yeah.
And there are some color coded puzzle boxes I struggle with. There's one puzzle early on, which is quite a big one, the VAC puzzle, where you have to get a series of lights to turn a certain pattern of colours, and I could not tell the difference between the blue and purple colours, and it was impossible for me to do.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I had to use a guide, which was annoying because I know I could solve the puzzle if those considerations had been made, but I basically had to solve it by just going, just following the order of the buttons I had to press, and then I did it. And I never like to be too harsh on certainly indie games, small teams, limited time, budget, playtesting, etc., etc. I'm aware of these things. I really am. So hopefully it will come in a patch for the game, so that others like me can have a fuller experience who come to the game.
I can add that on the Steam release, there is a setting where it looks as if you can toggle on some sort of visual accessibility options for colour blindness, and it just goes, coming soon, which is not ideal, but I suppose it shows they are considering it. Yeah. But I would certainly mirror your concern.
Is that menu option written in red text on a green background?
Might as well be. Might as well be. But I think that sort of thing in a puzzle game that is about colour is about as important as a first-person game letting you invert your sticks, if that's how you're used to playing, because it's just an industry, or should be a standard at this stage. It should just be something that is a set consideration, almost like as a flowchart when you're kind of creating or launching a game in these kind of genres, to say, we need people to be able to see the puzzles. That is important. And you can forgive it 20 years ago. Well, you can't really forgive it, but you can at least say games are not as widespread and mainstream as they are now.
Yeah, there weren't that many colours in games, apart from Pitfall, The Mayan Adventure, obviously, with stunning 256 colour art.
But yeah, it's a thing that hopefully soon will appear and kind of roll into these releases as well.
But I mean, the point I'm at in the game, like I said, is a lot further than you. I don't know, maybe 10 hours ahead of sort of where you've got to, and there is a sort of a snowballing that happens when you sort of make a couple of breakthroughs, and then you really make some breakthroughs.
Yeah.
But I found like my end game goal that I'm working towards currently, and I think there is an even bigger overarching puzzle that is just super, super cryptic that I think will probably need decoding once I've basically found everything else and put all the pieces of everything together. I've no idea if I'll get to that point, much in the same way that with Animal Well, I knew I wasn't going to resolve those last few big, enormous puzzles because it was just the idea of it didn't bring me any joy, so I wasn't gonna,
did not spark joy.
No, so I wasn't gonna do that. I've really been enjoying getting the in-game and out-of-game trophies in Blueprints, and so that desire to properly completely complete this game may win out, and I'll try and do everything in the game. Speaking of Animal Well, which I also think was just the most amazing puzzle box of a game. It was my game of the year last year.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite get the same sort of experience with that as I did with The Witness and as I have been having with Blueprints, because I wasn't comparing notes and sounding off with other people playing Animal Well at the same time, which, thanks very much. It's a huge part of the enjoyment of these games. It's sat in the pub in 2006 chatting about lost theories, with a cigarette probably. It's not in Wales. I think that came in doesn't matter. Came in earlier, but it's been wonderful to exchange delightfully vague messages with you.
Very vague.
so as not to give spoilers, although I do have to sort of resist the urge just to wind you up and be like, "Have you found the fire engine yet?"
Yeah,
and just leave
Stop
that there.
it.
And just leave that. Just hang that one out. And it's just like, what does the cat mean?
There is a cat. There's certainly a picture of a cat, and I don't know what that means yet.
But
means
also,
something. Everything means something.
Everything means something. Everything means something. But also with a friend of the show, Andy Smith, he's possibly the smartest person I know. He's got an incredible puzzle-solving brain, and it's been really, really great sort of like getting his thoughts on certain things, which comes at such a wildly different perspective to what I do. Also my friend Dan Taylor, who I play football with, and all three of you are at different points in the game to each other and have made certain discoveries that the others haven't, and are further along in some areas than me and haven't found things that have become crucial to my runs. And being able to chat with you all whilst I've been playing this has been such an incredible joy that then keeps the game going for me when I'm not playing it, even more than it already does, because Blueprints lives in your brain like The Witness does. You'll be seeing signs and shapes in the real world and trying to decode them, or accidentally tailing a car because it has a big number 46 bumper sticker, or seeing a shovel in the garden and getting excited, or just having a theory percolating in the back of your mind whilst you're in the car, and coupling that with chatting with my friends about it makes it feel like I've put in many, many, many more hours into the game than I can physically have. And that's just an incredibly special thing. I've got Doom: The Dark Age sat here, and it's a game, probably the biggest budget, biggest AAA game that I've been excited about, outside of obviously Nintendo stuff. For this year, and
still wrapped, still sealed.
I've opened it.
Looking
I've installed it mostly because I knew that it was going to be. It's apparently there's 85 meg on the disc.
But that's for me to whinge about another day, isn't it?
I know. But it hasn't got a look in, because all I want to do is play Blueprints.
Blueprints.
That's my brain. That's the sound my brain makes.
Honestly, sometimes I know I have a job to do at work, and I think I should probably get this done before I go home. And then I go, But if I leave now, that's 15 minutes more Blueprints I could be playing.
Yeah.
That's not healthy.
No, it's not. Who needs to teach these children?
I mean, it's after the kids have gone. I'm not leaving mid-class. But I could. I might start.
I guess, yeah, absolutely.
I might start.
I think, like you said, it's going to be very, very hard to beat for Game of the Year.
Yeah, Game of the Year. Just call it now. Then we don't have to do an end of year special.
Lazy.
Don't care.
But Blueprints is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. It's available to PS Plus subscribers, and it's on Xbox Game Pass. I think even full price is what, £25?
The best £25 anyone could ever spend if you enjoy puzzle games. Honestly, it's gonna.
I'm really glad for you.
It's gonna reward you multiple times over.
But yeah, just get it. Shut up.
All right, let's go to Finland.
Finland? Have you ever been?
No, I haven't been anywhere. I say it every month, but until we get to like Scotland, and then I'll go, yeah, I've been there.
Have we done Scotland? No, we haven't.
No, it's just GTA, isn't it? Nothing else comes out of Scotland.
Yeah. I've got a lot of facts about Finland because I love Finland, and it's really fascinating and brilliant for a lot of reasons. Least of all, the fact that it gave us Moomins and Father Christmas.
What a combo!
What a great start! What a great start! No wonder then is that Finland is the happiest country in the world statistically.
Lovely.
Or I think actually the survey says it's the least unhappy, which feels like appropriately 2025 bleak, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Finland is known as the land of 1,000 lakes, but that doesn't even scratch the surface because it actually houses 187,888 lakes.
Christ, that's
a lot.
A lot of lakes.
It is a lot of lakes.
Laura lakes.
Laura Lakes. The Finnish language is totally different to the other Scandinavian languages because it doesn't share the Germanic roots of Danish or Swedish or Norwegian. It's actually closer to Eastern European languages like Hungarian or Estonian.
Mm.
Yeah, I find that interesting, even though some might not. Let's just Google Translate it. Everyone speaks English. It's really dumb. Finland has the biggest coffee drinkers in the world.
By height?
Absolutely, by height. Finns consume an average of 12 kilos of coffee a year each, and that equates to about 8 cups a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The Finnish education system is quite remarkable. I'd suggest reading up on it because I can't really cover it here in a bullet point.
Why not?
I'm going to do my best.
Come on.
It really sounds like the way schooling should be done everywhere, with like a focus on cooperation, not competition. There's no standardized testing. There's proper support for teachers, a much more relaxed and enjoyable time for students with shorter days, regular breaks, minimal homework. It's lovely.
Sounds good.
Another great fact that you gave me, Chris, is that for a short period of time, when Rovio released Angry Birds Cola, Finland became one of the very, very few countries where another soda outsold Coca-Cola.
Yes.
Another exception being Iron Brew in Scotland.
Yeah.
And also Vimto in the Middle East.
Really?
Yeah.
Just love that fruity drink.
Yeah, absolutely love
Mystery fruits.
And of course, it can only be known as a sauna if it is an enclosed heated steam room in the original country of Finland. Otherwise, it should technically be known as a sparkling, sweaty, naked, awkward eye contact prison.
I hate saunas.
Me too.
I can't breathe. Like, it does something. I know that's half the point. You're supposed to. I don't know. It's horrible. Let's not go to a sauna.
Let's not. But let's talk about games of Finland.
Talk about games. Some big hitters then from Finland, as you've already kind of suggested. We just had a shot of glue then.
Tough, innit?
We can't.
First defence.
We can't talk about Finland without mentioning.
In its tracks.
We can't talk about Finland without mentioning Rovio, because they're developers of Angry Birds, perhaps the largest, but also I'd say probably deserved beneficiaries of the early App Store boom. There are now over 20 different Angry Birds titles. some have very much jumped the shark, ignoring what might have made early entries such breakout hits. But still, I always have a soft spot for the early titles at least, and they continue to do pretty good numbers, pulling in hundreds of millions in revenue each year and making Rovio valuable enough that Sega bought them just a couple of years ago. They're one of the only big names that Sega owns under their banner. Housemarque, responsible for a range of great arcade-influenced technical showcases like Resogun, Matterfall, Nex Machina, and Super Stardust, are Helsinki-based. These days, they're obviously probably best known as a first-party PlayStation studio and for creating Jonathan Dunn's favourite, Returnal.
Yeah, I cannot wait for their next game that has recently been teased. Yeah, oof.
Red Lynx, best known for the Trials motorbike series, are also Finnish. And although they've been a little bit quiet over the last 5 or 6 years since the release of Trials Rising, likely because they're being used as a studio for hire internally at Ubisoft, their parent company, which happens to all the good guys, I'm hopeful that there'll be more Trials in the future, because it's a good series. I like playing it. Supercell, responsible for the insidiously addictive and often quite predatory mobile titles Heyday and Clash of Clans, amongst others, are also headquartered in Helsinki too. Interestingly, my mother, a vehement non-gamer, not anti-gamer, because she's had to put up with me my whole life, but a non-gamer, in her whole life has only ever played 3 games for more than a few minutes. Pac-Man, when it first hit arcades, the first 2 Monument Valley games, I'm counting them as one, because they kind of go together, on her iPad, and Heyday, which she played daily for years after starting it during a spell in hospital.
God, I remember I had your mum as a friend on Heyday.
Sending some of those gems.
Oh my God, I was obsessed with that. I mean, this was before I sort of like cut myself off from all freemium games. But yeah, oh my God, Heyday.
We don't want to know the net spend on that one because it will make everyone sad. A few more quickies to finish. Frozen Byte, who are responsible for the Trine series, as well as the incredibly underrated tower defense MOBA type thing called Has Been Heroes. Finnish.
Yeah.
10 Tons Entertainment, who made a range of indies, I think mainly on the PlayStation, but you can get a lot on Steam as well, like Crimson Land, Neon Chrome, Sparkle, King Oddball, and others. Finnish. And Bugbear Entertainment, most famous for the Flat Out and Wreckfest racing games, are all from Finland too.
What about Nokia? Snake.
How did I not even get that?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, mate. Just sack me. Honestly, that's the most heinous miss I've had doing this research so far. A game played probably by more people than anything we've ever talked about on this show. Yeah. And I'm just like, fucking doesn't count, does it? The phone doesn't count. Of course, Nokia, Finland, yes. Snake.
Yeah,
Space Impact 2, Bantumi, all absolute rippers on my 3310. What
Snake
a day.
2.
What a great time.
Snake 2, Wraparound. I actually downloaded a free app that was like emulate. It didn't emulate, but you know.
Yeah.
And reminded me that games are better now.
We've been spoiled for choice. Anyway, after all this, what did you, Jonathan Dunn, decide to play from Finland this month?
Well, Jonathan is me,
yes.
but Baba is you.
Oh, that was a nice little link there. That was cute. That was cute. Is that finished as well?
I haven't finished it. No.
Yay! You know, every once in a while we do with these recordings, it just feels sillier.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I feel like today's one of those.
Yeah, good. Baba Is You is a puzzle game it's been on my radar for a fair while because I knew it was good and it looked cool. But I actually had no idea how the game worked until I tried it this month for this episode. And I really wish I'd played it sooner because it is so clever and it's doing something very different to any other puzzle game I've played, which stretches my brain in a totally new way, a way that I clearly have no muscle for because I am crap at this game. At the moment, anyway, until I, really exercise those brain muscles and
finish blueprints.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Actually,
I reckon it could be.
Yeah. Oh, fucking glue. On the surface, Baba Is You is an easily navigable Sokoban style tile game where you are pushing tiles around a grid to find a way to an end goal. And the things will involve walls, doors, keys, rocks, obstacles, dangers, things like that. So far, so typical. But the twist in Bubba Is You is that there are also conditional words to be moved around to change the states of the various elements in the puzzle, changing the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So Bubba is the little character you're controlling, and there'll usually be a title. There'll usually be a tile with Bubba, one with is, and one with you in the puzzle. Bubba is you. If you move one of those elements out of that statement, you are no longer Bubba and cease to be able to control him. Or you could maybe take the rock tile from the 3 tiles stating that rock is push. Move it to replace Bubba, so rock is you. And then you will be controlling a rock.
Mario Odyssey.
It's perhaps useful when the rock is on the same side of a wall as the goal and Bubba is not. Or you could move the stop tile from the wall is stop statement, so you can just pass right over walls. Or maybe move the wall from that statement to replace Bubba, so wall is you becomes true to allow you to move around as all of the walls in the puzzle. You can also push more words around to make certain elements be more than one thing, like rock is push, running vertically, and rock is open, running horizontally, allowing you to push a rock to a locked door to open it.
Oh.
The game starts with having a flag is win statement, meaning that you need to get to the flag on the puzzle grid to win the stage, but you can obviously also change then the win conditions if you can't reach flag and have it be wall is win, or Bubba is you running vertically and Bubba is win running horizontally, and then you just win. From the sounds of Bubba Is You from the description so far, it maybe sounds a little bit like Scribblenauts setup, where creative thinking out of the box is enough to find a way to win. But there's actually a lot more limitations in place because most of the puzzles have at least a few of these statements be unalterable. So you can't just say, Bubba is Cthulhu and win every level like you would in Scribblenauts. You really have to find some obtuse ways to make the puzzles work. And it is an incredible brain bend because it's just so unlike any other sort of puzzles I'm used to solving. Like, my brain doesn't automatically see those options and see a way to move those things around because those like unwritten rules of puzzle games are hardwired into my brain. So when I look at a puzzle, I go, yep, that's a puzzle. And I don't even see the wall as a movable option because it's a wall and walls stop you in games. And that's what I've known.
Wall is stop.
Exactly. 35 years or, well, plus. I wasn't playing games at 3. Shut up. And obviously, like, it's not criticism of the game at all. It's so wonderful when you find a game that makes you think differently. Like how Portal did first time I played that, or Braid. And it's one I'm definitely going to stick with, especially as I'm playing it on my phone. It works great on mobile. It looks extra good on the OLED display with its stark black backgrounds and, sort of very sort of heavily pixelated sprites. And this art style makes everything really readable, so your brain can focus on solving the puzzle instead of, trying to see what's what. It's a genius concept, Bubba Is You. It's one that actually similar to what you were saying with Harold's Walk. Harold's Walk. It speaks to a gamer audience who are much more au fait with gaming and with coding and conditional programming and things like that, which lends then a really great postmodern twist to the game too, because it's a game about subverting the rules of games, and it just works brilliantly. It's fiendishly tricky. It's incredibly satisfying when you get it right, because you feel like a genius who has just hacked the mainframe, and you feel like you are much smarter than the game because you've absolutely just torn their rules to pieces. In reality, it makes you just feel much smarter than you actually are.
It's a good thing too.
Absolutely. It's not breaking news that Bubba Is You is a really good puzzle game, much like the Talos Principle the other month. I'm late to this, but I'm so glad that I finally found my way to it. It's an excellent game. It's available on everything. I think it's not the cheapest game on mobile. I think I paid $6.99 for it.
That's still pennies, isn't it?
£7. It's 699 pennies, Chris.
Which is a lot of pennies.
Yeah, it's like Oh, did you lift a did you lift a barbell? Yeah, how many? 699. That is superhuman.
Did you know? I've just looked this up because I want to see what platforms it was actually on. This is developed in Multimedia Fusion 2, which is essentially the Games Factory, what the Games Factory became.
And I've been thinking about that because that's like my very basic experience with that sort of setting those conditions out. It's exactly what you do in those games. You go, platform is stop, unicycle is go.
I cannot believe I've never played this game. Like, I've known about it for such a long time, and there's been enough times when I've seen like a screenshot and gone, I reckon I'd probably be into that. I think that's a puzzle game I could enjoy, and I just never got around to it. Foolish folly is mine. Put it on the list.
Yeah.
Put it on the list. I can sleep when I'm dead.
So, next time on O3C, what have you played from Finland, Chris?
From Finland. I like racing games. But for a racing game to work for me, it's got to have the juice. It's got to have the juice, the racing juice. The juice in my personal racing game parlance is not always easy to define, but it's about feel. Like, how does it feel to actually drive or to drift or to corner your vehicle? I don't care much about realism. So Gran Turismo generally, as much as I've enjoyed certain entries in bursts, always left me a bit cold because it's too rooted in the real. Whereas Forza Horizon, on the other hand, with slightly more arcadey handling, but still feeling relatively grounded, feels really good. That's got the juice. Sega Rally in the arcade and on the Saturn, that had the juice. Daytona USA, definitely in the arcade, less so on the Saturn, but it's got the juice. But the sequels to both those games have always been a bit lackluster in my experience. So Sega Rally 2 on the Dreamcast, to me, feels unfinished. I don't enjoy it at all. Daytona 2001, also on the Dreamcast, does feel finished, but it's by a team who apparently had never played the original. So it feels like a different series completely. It's just, it looks like Daytona, it sounds like Daytona, doesn't feel like Daytona, which is odd. I'd heard of, but I'd never played 2007's Sega Rally Revo, and spotting on Wikipedia's famously always correct page, Videogames developed in Finland, I did some digging, found the long delisted PC port, got to racing. Sega Rally Revo, it's got the juice. It's absolutely got the juice. The big selling point for this entry was terrain deformation. You cruise around, cars carve lines into the mud and snow, whatever else you end up cruising over. And like the similarly juicy Wave Race 64, this additional element changes the feel of each track and lap. It's great. It's really, really good. The handling is loose, as rally games should be, but it's also grounded enough that you can feel the racing line as it's sculpted by the cars ahead of you. You almost kind of lock into it and need to fight against the grooves that cut in the mud. Sort of blasting across an arc of mud to attempt a daring over undertake always feels thrilling, because you're not just battling the angles of the course, but also kind of the recent history of other racers cornering and approach play. It's just really good. Puddles of water as well. They become something to be wary of, not only because you get locked into a sort of aquaplane skid, like you did even in the first Sega Rally on the desert stage, but because the mud you've kicked up and painted your car with also starts to subtly alter the handling of the car too, and water becomes the only real way to kind of mid-race reset your aim and weight so you can kind of drive true again.
I like that.
It's a really detailed model for 2007, but one that still balances bouncy, skiddy arcade fun with ostensibly real world physics. You know, it doesn't feel like you're playing a kart racing game, but it doesn't feel like Gran Turismo. It's not dry like that. The career mode as well is expansive in a way that early Sega Rally games obviously never were, because it launched first as a home console game and then got ported to the arcade as Sega Rally 3. So it was trying to get home audience first, and it's really fascinating to look at now, and in context of its wider series, because it shows Sega attempting to figure out what an arcade racer needed to be a good few years before Turn 10 set the open world Horizon framework that's now kind of standardized enough to be influencing fucking Mario Kart of all things. That wasn't on my bingo card before the announcement recently. Sega Rally has medals to unlock, there's cars and liveries to earn, tracks to master, all the good stuff that makes you finish a series in second and immediately think both, I could do better, but also I'm going to be rewarded for doing so as well. So it's absolutely worth my time. Now, with all this gushing praise, small problem, teeny tiny problem, eagle-eared game historians may already have realised that Sega Rally Revo, in its 360, PS3, PC and later arcade incarnations, was developed by a team called Sega Racing Studio. That's fine. They were made up of ex-Codemasters employees. That's all right. Based in Solihull. in the UK. Everything I've just said is basically null and void.
Brilliant.
My subtle foreshadowing earlier about Wikipedia was to highlight that as great as that site is, there are limitations. Because a category page like games developed in Finland doesn't specify products outside of a game name. So if a big budget game was developed primarily in the UK, say, but had a multiplayer component outsourced to Shanghai, it's on the editors, and therefore those interested and invested enough to check, to decide the overriding nationality of that game. Where does it actually come from? What we kind of planting our flag in. And in this case, if a game had multiple versions, it's again up to the enterprising editors to make the call if the lead platform means it's a game from country A or country B. So Sega Rally Revo, by my metric, is a UK-developed video game. But fear not, for Bugbear Entertainment, our flat-out friends I mentioned earlier, drift to our rescue with the definitely finished, developed port of Sega Rally Revo for the PSP, Sony's PlayStation Portable. It's the same game, but different. And you know what? It absolutely has a portion of the juice. It's still a loosey-goosey rally game. Cars still get sprayed with mud and slide about nicely, but the juiciest bit of Sega Rally Revo is the track definition, and perhaps understandably, it's completely missing from this version of the game because the PSP is absolutely punching above its weight anyway with the port. Like, it's a very respectable handling model. There's great graphics for the handheld. It looks really good for the time. But the mud chucked up all over your car is purely visual. And whether you're racing on lap 1 or lap 201, they're just decals on the road, which kind of purport a track shredded and carved. They're basically just fancy lines being drawn on with a Sharpie. So it's not the same. I still like the game, and I'm thankful for its existence, if only because it's kind of in a roundabout way justified me having played a good few hours of the PC port, but it's not quite the game I was talking about a few minutes ago. If you pick up the PSP game, emulate it, if you've got the old UMD for your handheld console, there's still a sizable campaign. It absolutely would have kept me very busy nearly 20 years ago if I was playing this contemporaneously on my PlayStation Portable after maybe a dull shift working at Staples or on the bus to college. But it's not as good as Sega Rally Revo on any other platform. And it's not even as interesting as Bugbear's other games like Flat Out or Wreckfest, or even their horribly misguided Ridge Racer game called Unbounded, which I love Ridge Racer. I hated Unbounded. Not just because grammatically it makes no sense, it's just a horrible game. But I didn't play any of those because Wikipedia lied to me. So, on the PSP, comes from Finland, it's fine.
Brilliant. So on if we're using Juice as a comparison point, less Tropicana, more Sunny D.
Yeah, or maybe someone said, would you like a glass of juice? And you're assuming, oh, fresh juice, yeah, lovely. And they're like, squash, all right?
Gotcha.
and it's like, yeah, I suppose.
Squash is high juice. Do you have high juice?
Yeah, I love those as well. It's like, what flavour is it? It's like, orange. Fuck's sake.
Do you want to know where we're going next?
Yes. Please.
The country we're going to next is great. The flag is a big plus. Switzerland.
I thought you were going to say... Had to be just long enough. It was funnier that the punchline stuck out 2 seconds afterwards. Oh boy, he's going to bed today. He's going to bed. This is what 30 hours over the week has done, just thinking up blueprints puzzles.
Yeah.
Oh, right, Switzerland. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. According to Wikipedia, you can play GTA 5 or Hades, apparently. No.
Oh, dearie me. Right.
Yeah.
Top result if you search for video games of Switzerland is a game called Speedy Egbert.
Amazing.
originally developed for the PC in 1998.
That looks like Harold's Walk.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll play that.
Probably. I want you to play Mundawn, the first-person horror game.
Oh,
I'm playing a game already. Yeah, there's not on that list actually.
They're not. What is it? What are you playing?
Isle of Arrows. The Far games, both Swiss, Far Lone Sails and Far Changing Tides.
I've wanted to play them.
I know Jeremy is a big fan of those, or at least has played them. Catch the Sperm.
Lovely.
An educational game. Recognised as an entertaining way for health professionals to promote prevention of HIV.
There we go.
So that's got all the depth you need in it, all the subtext you need. It's not apartheid, but what is?
What is?
I tell you what, apartheid. Oh, there was a game called Niche, a genetic survival traps and treasures, Unrailed. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So there we go. That was Finland. Well, sort of Finnish, wasn't it?
You going to stop there?
No. I'm not going to at some point. I'm going to do those dead cuts so early that it just ends before it even starts.
Before the music begins.
Yeah. So there we go. That was Finland with a fantastic game from Finland. Bubba Is You, and a Finnish game, Sega Rally Revo.
The PSP.
Finish! I'm going to get that soundbite and put it in.
Oh, please do.
Oh, and every time we say the word finish.
I think you should, if you can be bothered. That would be a very funny joke.
Might do. Be like the drive-by sound effect in PowerPoint.
Amazing.
I can't wait to go to Switzerland next month, a place I've actually been. Good. Very young. I just remember seeing an actual bear pit in Bern. Probably not all right, is it?
Yeah, end on that.
I do. Come and chat to us on social media at O3C Games on everything. We'll be going to Switzerland in approximately 2 months' time because we are going to be playing the Playdate Season 2 games over the next few weeks. It's going to be great. It's going to be Playdate great. Come and join us in the Discord if you want to chat with us. And enjoy playing your Switch 2s, because that's what we'll also be doing. Bloody hell, we've got a lot to talk about, aren't we, next episode?
Busy.
Shitballs. Stop there.